Hello everybody. So it's getting to that time of year where we get lots of reports from tenants of condensation mould and little black spots appearing around windows and on ceilings and things like that. And tenants generally call up and describe it as they've got a damp problem, a damp and a mould problem. But in fact, actually what they've got is they've got a condensation mould problem. So I just want to talk through that and give some tips on how to manage condensation mould. Because damp in a property is a very different situation to condensation mould. If you've got a damp problem in your property, then actually you've got a wet wall. If you touch the wall and you can see a wet patch on the wall, then that will be an actual damp problem and something potentially wrong with the structure of the building. But if you're getting a lot of little black spots, that's actually condensation mould, and that is as a result of a build-up of moisture within the property that's not being allowed to ventilate properly to get out of the property. So there's a number of things you can do, because we've been managing properties for 11 years now, and always when it's little black mould spots, it always comes down to condensation. So there's a few things you can do to try and manage this. Number one priority is ventilation. You must be ventilating the property. So every day we need you to open your windows. Every day you need to let air out of the property and fresh air back in. So moisture's going out, fresh air coming back in. Now, a lot of people might live in a ground floor flat or don't want to leave their windows open fully all day, etc. And I understand that. Most windows now have certainly most double glazed windows now have what I call a security lock on them, so you can open them a little bit and still lock them, and it allows airflow to come through. So that's really, really important, and that must be done every day for as long as possible as well, to let that moisture out and let fresh air back into the property. A lot of modern windows have something called a trickle vent now, and you'll generally find that at the top of the window frame, and there'll be a little vent that you can open and close. You should keep that open as much as possible. Keep that open at all times if you can, please, because that will allow airflow into the property and therefore stop a build-up of moisture. Now, the other thing that's important is actually to create airflow around your property. And you can do that by leaving internal doors open. So if you've got a window open at each side of the building, let's say you've got one open in the lounge, one open in the kitchen, or one open in one bedroom, one open in another bedroom, that will actually, and you leave your internal doors open, that will actually allow an airflow to start flowing around the property and therefore, again, ventilate sufficiently. So it's no good really just having air coming into one room. We need to create that airflow around the property to properly ventilate it. And the thing is, some properties are much easier to manage the mould problem with. Some properties don't really get it at all. But if you've got one that does, and certainly a lot of apartments and flats and older flats certainly do have that problem, it's just something you're going to have to get used to managing. And so following these tips will help you with that. Now, when you wake up in the mornings, you're going to see condensation on your windows because it's warmer inside the property than it is outside, and that attracts the moisture to the windows and creates a build-up of moisture on the windows. So again, to prevent a build-up of damp and mould, you're going to need to dry that off. You're going to need to get a towel or a squeegee and squeegee the windows and then towel it dry and take that moisture away. It is a pain, but it's just unfortunately part of keeping a property clean and tidy and not ending up with a mould problem. So that's really the ventilation and that kind of thing. You also need to be heating the property sufficiently. Heating plus ventilation will mean a mould-free property. The other thing that's really important is if you've got too many things in your property, that we often find that too many belongings, overcrowding a property can cause a problem. So you need to move things away from the walls and make sure that again, air can flow around the property, so sometimes you have to move furniture away from the walls and allow that airflow to move around the property. And finally, my other tip is extractor fans. Make sure your extractor fans are working. Make sure you're using them, especially in bathrooms without windows. It's really important to have the extractor fan working properly. And one of the main things that I see when we go and inspect properties are that people have turned the extractor fans off at the isolator switch, and that's normally a switch that's outside the bathroom above the door quite often, that turns the extractor off and isolates the electricity supply to that extractor fan. So very important that you're using your extractor fans. They've been cleaned out. Make sure they're clean of cobwebs and everything like that, and air's flowing out of them properly. And do make sure they're operating properly and you haven't turned the isolator switch off, so that when you turn the light on, your extractor fan comes on, and it should stay on for a period of time after you've left the bathroom and turned the light off as well, so that it's sucking all that moisture out of the bathroom. What you've got to realise is, just by standing here speaking, I'm putting moisture into the air, boiling the kettle, cooking, pets, family members, human beings, we give off moisture, unfortunately. So there's so many ways within your property that moisture is being created, and it needs to be let out. So the long and short of it is lots of ventilation as much as possible. Even when you're out, try and keep those windows on the vent lock so that there's air coming in. Keep the internal doors open so that an airflow can be created around the property. Move belongings, if you've got a really bad problem, move belongings away from the wall, again, to let air flow around. Use trickle vents if you've got them on the windows, and keep them open at all times. Make sure you're heating the property sufficiently, and use your extractor fans and make sure extractor fans are working. Any problems, then do give us a shout, but doing those things, I promise you, will really sort the problem for you. The only other thing to say is that if you haven't been doing that and you have got a condensation mould problem, then the only way to solve that is to now use a specialist cleaning product to kill the mould, because it is a live growth, so just wiping it off, it will grow back. You need a really strong bleach, a really strong mould killing product to actually kill that growth off, clean it off, and then start following the advice that we've given you. But any problems, do get in touch with us. This probably isn't fully comprehensive advice, but from our property management team, this is the sort of stuff that we manage on a yearly basis. Every year we get a glut of phone calls about, I've got condensation mould, what can I do about it? And if you follow these steps, that will really minimise the problem. Anything you need, then do get in touch with us. Thank you.